Salute, figure fours. On a recent episode of Something to Wrestle with JBL, addressed long-standing perception of him as a bully, explaining that as a heel, he refrained from correcting this image to preserve his character's heat. He reflected on a rumor involving Chris Kanyon's sexuality, clarifying that he's a strong advocate for LGBTQ plus rights. Having marched in Bermuda's first gay pride parade, JBL emphasized that during Kanyon's time in the business, no one knew he was gay, and even if they had it wouldn't matter. He acknowledged that addressing such claims like public L's could make him appear defensive, so he chose to let them pass rather than rewrite history. JBL admitted that his generation often engaged in ribbing, which could sometimes cross the line into hazing. While he regretted any actions that may have caused harm, he explained that it was part of the culture at the time. He also shared that he sometimes took criticism to shield friends, preferring to bear the brunt rather than implicate others. Ultimately, JBL expressed his desire to focus on moving forward rather than dwelling on past social media accusations. He hopes his actions weren't perceived as malicious and believes in taking responsibility while striving to grow from past mistakes.
Boy, here's a question that I've gotten 182 times since you and I started doing the podcast. B at LFC fan 1982 on Twitter says, why is John always portrayed as a bully? When listening to him on the podcast and how he handles himself overall, I think most of us have a different opinion of him now after listening to these podcasts. You know, that is something that I get peppered with all the time since we started doing this show. Man, I decided I would never listen. And then my friend said that, no, you should listen. And I hated him, but man, I really like him on the podcast. And I've always felt like when I first met you, like, man, what a great job you did at portraying that character on TV. But I guess there is this narrative out there where, you know, tell a friend, telegram, tell a wrestler, whatever it is. And so now these legends just grow and these stories take on a life of their own. But if I was a heel, I don't know that I ever would have tried to change that narrative. Oh, you mean I'm an asshole? Well, I wanted you to boo. I don't think I'll challenge that. Keep thinking I'm an asshole. Is that what happened, or is there more to it than this?
I think there's probably more to it, but that's a lot what happened. You know, and there's a couple things. One, I was always a heel, so I didn't want to correct people and say, oh, by the way, I'm a good guy. I think you just come across terrible when you say that. I think it kills any type of heat you have. So, I mean, there was a story a while back that I was mean to Chris Kanyon because he was gay. And there's a couple real issues with that. I mean, number one, I marched in the first gay pride parade in Bermuda. I'm a huge advocate for equality in gay marriage. I don't care who you marry, ain't none of my damn business. So that's a big issue. A bigger issue was no one knew he was gay.
Right.
He was there, no one knew. You know, people talk about, you know, the Undertaker did this or then that. Nobody knew. You know, and nobody would have cared, by the way. I mean, absolutely 100% wouldn't have cared. But if I come out and say, oh, wait a minute, I'm really a good guy. I marched in the gay pride parade. I'm actually for equality. And all of a sudden, you just look like a freaking douche by trying to defend yourself or rewrite history. And so a lot of that is, a lot of that's me not taking anybody to task over it and letting stuff run rampant. In some cases, even fueling the flames a little bit. And some of it could be true. I'm not trying to rewrite history. I'm not trying to rewrite my legacy. Whatever I did, I did. And, you know, I hope I wasn't an asshole, but if I was, I've apologized to most people. As you live long enough and you have a good time, you do things that you regret. But a lot of these things, you know, some are myth, you know, and some are just, you know, it's me not wanting to get into a fight on Twitter and say, hey, I didn't do that, or I did do this, or anything about that.
Now, since we hear and we getting things from the horse's mouth, one of the biggest rumors that JBL name has been attached to and associated with through the years is this whole Mauro Ronaldo situation. For those of y'all that may not know who Mauro Ronaldo is, let's get to this real quick.
Kind of when you disappeared from WWE at first, People didn't know you had a breakdown. People really, a lot of people didn't even know about the bipolar thing. And what ended up happening was there was a lot of scandals on the internet and bullying this, and other people were getting blamed for that. Did you think that was a fair thing, or were you kind of going like, this isn't true? What's being reported here?
Very tough time personally, because it took me until the age of 46, and my best friend Michael Jansen, who died at 19, who really, his death is what triggered my first meltdown that led to the diagnosis.
How did he
die? Heart attack, believe it or not. And his family, all his two sisters and his mom and dad just arrived today. They're here for the premiere. I call them every year, no matter where I am, July 6th, the anniversary of his death. But to get to your point, the reason I say that, when we were 18, I'll never forget, I picked him up at his college class, and all he said was, I can't wait until you work for Vince McMahon. So that was when he was 18. It took me until I was 46 to get to WWE. Incredible feedback, amazing. You talk about euphoria, you talk about the mania, the run, working with Jerry Lawler right away. Incredible run. I quickly realized, wait a minute, as tough as this schedule is, and it, my man, what the sports entertainers, these athletes, 52 weeks a year, guys. It's amazing. It's
unreal.
And I'm just an announcer. So take that and add Showtime Championship Boxing, Bellator MMA, other VO. Like, I had this whole other 2 careers going on. I thought, I'm Superman, I can maintain. No, the schedule, the just the stress of doing all of it was starting to take its toll. And so, yes, you can, I don't want to address anything else, because all of that is bullshit. And there were people that, of course, every working relationship you have to navigate. You're not always going to get along with everybody the way you would like to get along with your colleagues. But WWE, like you say, for all of its, the giant corporation that it is, and anything you may have heard, Paul Levesque, Triple H, Michael Cole, they called me and said, we got to try. We know the quote from Paul Levesque was, Mauro, maybe I'm wrong, but I think this business is in your DNA. I said, absolutely right. How can we make this work? And it's funny, because when they first approached me and they said, we want you to come and work with us, I said, is it for NXT? I love the underdog, the grind, so it worked out for the best, and I truly believe that this documentary, because I've heard from a lot of WWE folks, anonymously, whatever, it's hopefully going to help them as well, because all of us, we need to just release, and instead of, Jim, as we've discussed already, doing things harmful to ourselves or others, just, hey, what's the question you hear most every day? Hey, how are you? What's up?
So you see, guys, Mauro Manado, he took on too much. He took on too much on his plate. So it wasn't JBL, guys. And Mauro was not a homegrown NXT product. We saw Mauro doing his thing with boxing. And we said, Mauro, you should come on over here. And Mauro agreed, but Mauro never cleaned his slate to just do pro wrestling. Mauro thought he can do wrestling, MMA, boxing, and he tried to do all of those at his age, and he just had breakdowns. So he left because he had breakdown, and then he lost somebody very close to him, so he had to go regroup. He ain't leave because he was bullied out of his position. And if he was bullied out of his position, it was not JBL. And guys, for those of you that want to know the real reason why Mauro had to leave and wanted to leave, click the link that's going to pop up at the end of this video, because that's connected to this Corey Graves story. And we'll be doing a video on Corey Graves.
I want to be clear too. We just talked about the Mauro Ranallo circumstance a couple of weeks ago here on the show, and I knew what really happened when it happened. And you and I don't know that we ever even had a real conversation, but we know that story was about someone else. That was never about you. But the online narrative became that it was about you, and you never corrected it, because that would have meant. And anyone who's listened to this show for more than 2 episodes since you've been with us knows that you're not going to throw anybody under the bus. Nope. What you're not going to do is stooge off anyone or fade the heat to anyone, and it is what it is. So you just took the L on that one, and the people who know, well, that's not true. Ask Mauro. That's not what happened.
Right.
But the internet went crazy with it. But because you didn't say, oh, no, actually, it wasn't me, it was so-and-so, which is what respectfully a lot of other people would do. You just took it on the chin, and it just grows. And I don't know. I don't think you've been given a fair shake. And I think the listeners of this show now realize that.
It's very kind. And you know, a lot of it was, you know, we ribbed incessantly. And a lot of it, I outgrew my generation. I outlived my generation. You know, our generation, we ribbed all the time. And we thought it was fun. You know, and was it hazing? Could have been. Yeah, it might have been. Was it too strong? Of course it was at times. Anytime you do stuff like that, inherently you're going to get too strong. But I didn't care if I was the one being ribbed. I'm like Bart a lot in that respect. You know, I didn't care if I was the one being ribbed. I didn't care if you were the one being ribbed. I just wanted to be entertained. We were bored. We didn't have internet. We didn't have a lot of stuff. And so a lot of that just came about by, you know, I think people misinterpreting. I don't know that. I don't know that for sure. The only person you can talk to is the people that have made these claims. And again, I've never wanted to address the claims because you look like such a douche when you go, oh, hey, listen, that didn't happen. And it looks like you're apologizing for stuff. And I didn't think that was what I want to do. It's certainly not what I want to do. You know, I can spend a lot of my time trying to correct the perception of people I don't know on the internet, but that's not going to change my life at all. You know, the only thing that's going to change is, you know, what I'm doing next. And I've always had kind of this forward-looking thing, and I've never really cared, you know, what people have said, but sometimes to my detriment, you know. And again, sometimes the true story involved other people, and I'm not going to put that out there because I'm not going to throw anybody else under the bus. There were things I took heat for because I didn't want anybody else to take that heat, because I thought I'm not going to do that to a friend. And I took heat that was more than what I should have taken. But not more than I should have taken. It's what you should have taken because you're a friend.
Well, we also know just how this clickbait society works. I mean, you know, the reality is what video is going to get more clicks? Buff Bagwell saying that you hurt him and stiffed him and took liberties with him, or Buff Bagwell talking about your charity work with sports programs for underprivileged kids and marching in gay pride parades. And I mean, it's just, you know, it is what it is.
Conrad ain't never lie. It is what it is. And ultimately, this is why at the end of the day, only person you got to worry about how they see you is God. Because people going to see you how they see themselves. Remember, people that don't see change in themselves, not going to see change in other people. People that don't see growth in themselves, not going to see growth in other people. And that's just the society that we live in. But let me be the first person to be a man and apologize to you, JBL, because I once was on that bandwagon of thinking just because you're a great heel, and this is what I love about heels, because heels have that ability to make you hate them. You hate them, you just don't believe, you don't want to believe they did anything right. So it's easy to believe in a rumor or a myth when you already hate the character, and that's just a testament to the heels. I remember being younger and I used to hate the $1 Million Man. I used to hate Roddy Piper. I mean, as I got older, I come to find out that no, that the heels were the good guys and the good guys were actually the bad guys. You know what I mean? Hint, Hulk Hogan. But in any event, guys, that's just some great heel work from JBL. And again, I apologize, JBL. I was wrong. Because I thought you was just this big bad wolf in the background, in the back area, just bullying people. Then I know you and Russo got into it and all of that. So I had a bad perception. Yeah, let me know how many of y'all still believe JBL was a bully, or how many of y'all feel y'all real enough to owe JBL apology. Put it in the comment section, guys, and I'll see you guys later.
So what exactly happened then with Morrow? What was the thing that went on?
Well, there was a show that we did called "Bring It to the Table," and that was one of the big contentious points. As far as, you know, anything I said on camera that was 100% in character. Anything I said backstage, I don't think there was anything. I can't speak for Morrow, so there was no malicious intent ever on anything backstage. I thought I got along with Morrow fairly well, but the show "Bring It to the Table," Morrow had a travel problem. There was a snowstorm across the country, and he didn't make a show. And I'm not sure what all happened, but there was a snowstorm. He couldn't make travel. Those things happen. During that same time, we did this show called "Bring It to the Table," And everybody points to that show as the point of me taking a shot at Morrow. Well, on that show, right before we did it, there was about 3 to 5 minutes we needed for the show. And I said, what can we do? And I said, hey, there's this internet poll that makes Morrow the number one announcer. Could you do something on that? I said, yeah, of course. So when he went on the show, I did a rant on the show about, no, they're calling Morrow the number one announcer. He's retweeted it, blah, blah, blah. 100% in character. And people talk about that poll, that I was so jealous of that poll that I went on TV and talked about it. I didn't know the poll existed until right before he went on the show. And that was me. I just assumed Morrow knew that was something I had done in character. In fact, when the show aired, Meltzer, the online guy who does all the backstage news, they said Meltzer's mad at you. And I hadn't heard that name in quite a while because it's behind a paywall, his stuff. So I didn't read it. I didn't keep up with it. And I said, why is he mad? And they said, well, that was his poll. I had no idea. People talk about so much how I was so mad about that poll. I had no idea the poll existed. That was just me being JBL on camera. And I think Morrow took that the wrong way. I hope he didn't. I hope now he realizes that was something that I did that was 100% in character. I saw Morrow, I think a few weeks later. Everything fell out, and I became the bad guy with everything. And I saw him. He was standing for a car, and he was on his phone. I think it was New Orleans. Anyway, I walked across the parking lot, and he was on his phone, so I couldn't talk to him. But I shook his hand, just went across, shook his hand. And he said, how you doing, man? I said, it's good, brother. And just left, just to let him know that there was no ill intent, at least of me toward him. I regret the whole situation. I wish that Morrow had known, for sure. I think that was one of the things that was really upsetting. I know it was upsetting to a lot of fans because they all talked about it.
This is a wreck. He's moving like an uncaged animal.
No lie, he's wild in there.